Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. I'm Amber Duke, joined at the desk by Bofta Imam. Our first time hosting together.
I know. We've got a lot of superpower, two ladies on the desk.
That's right. You love to see it. We're going to get right into it. We have a new Pope, and of course, Pope Leo XIV is a very special case in all of Catholic Church history because he's the first American Pope. Cardinal Robert Prevost was born in Chicago and has spent a lot of time in Peru as a missionary.
Pope Francis made him a cardinal back in 2023, and many have tried looking into his background to decipher his theological and political stances. Most notably, you may remember that he criticized J.D. Vance and appears to lean left on issues like immigration and gun control.
Naturally, he appears to be stern on issues like abortion, homosexuality, and gender ideology. This has sparked reaction on X, notably from the right. Senior counsel at Article 3 Project, Will Chamberlain, wrote on X, "I know I have plenty of Catholic followers. I hope that Leo XIV is a great pope and a wonderful steward for the Catholic Church. But seriously, an American who publicly criticized Vance and Trump on immigration in his few public statements? Really?" Meanwhile, Daily Wire host Matt Walsh wrote, "If you aren't Catholic, then you don't believe that this pope was elected through the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So you'll troll through his Twitter feed and analyze his selection through a modern political lens, as if he was just elected to a seat in the U.S. Senate rather than the chair of St. Peter. This is why any conversation about the Pope on this site is destined to be disjointed, confused, and ultimately useless."
Senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, Norm Eisen, responded to Laura Luma criticizing the new Pope. Eisen wrote on Blue Sky, "Best possible endorsement of Pope Leo."
All right, so obviously a momentous moment for Catholics. Relatively short conclave, though, just 2 days. The longest ever was 3 weeks. And I've got to say, when I saw the white smoke yesterday, there was a lot of anxiety and nerves, but also a lot of excitement. And it's a beautiful ceremony, the way the new Pope walks out into that window at the Vatican and presents himself for the first time. Pope Leo choosing to wear the traditional vestments, which was really nice to see. But I know there's a lot of commentary and debate about his political views and sort of trying to fit them into the American political paradigm. So what was your initial reaction to this choice?
Well, I thought that, like it's a moment, it's a moment when you see the smoke and then there's the decision being made. I mean, it's really a beautiful sight to see, whether you believe in Catholicism or not. Just seeing this moment and the tradition being carried is beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think that there were many who expected it maybe to come from the decision to be made with somebody who was more so leaning toward from a non-superpower nation, as we've seen in the past. So this came as a surprise to some, but not to others. And I think that when we look at his work, the missionary work in Peru, the way he bounced between languages, the fluency, the peace be with you all, the message that was sent, thanking those who had chosen him and selected him, the encouragement that he gave in that moment. I think that there's so many who felt inspired. Again, whether you are a Catholic or not, I think that there was a lot to be taken from that moment.
Yeah, definitely. And as a Catholic myself, I definitely resonate with what Matt Walsh is saying of, well, if you're not Catholic and you're trying to fit the Pope neatly into, politics and particularly the American left-right paradigm, then you're kind of missing the point a little bit.
Yeah.
Popes rarely fit neatly into a right-left sort of delineation, but if you do dig into a little bit of his history, he looks to me to be pretty moderate, right? I mean, you have him expressing very socially conservative views on things like LGBT issues and trans issues, certainly abortion, and then he is more in line with Pope Francis on things like immigration,
right,
social justice, poverty, environmentalism. But I think what a lot of Catholics were excited to see was that, based on reports of his sort of public persona, is that he is very thoughtful about things that he says to the media. He is very quite thinking before he speaks in terms of giving those public statements. And that was something that a lot of Catholics were frustrated with Pope Francis about, was that he sort of spoke off the cuff and would do these gaggles where things would be misinterpreted or not translated quite the right way, which led to some confusion among churchgoers and then people outside of the Catholic Church. So that's a bit of a relief to hear that he's going to be very careful about these public words and the weight that they carry.
Well, right, and like you said, no matter what, people are going to try to take anything he's done in the past, and of course what he says in the future, and try to put it neatly into a box. But the reality is that he is probably going to be very careful with his words, and I think he also will be passionate and vocal when he needs to be, because we've seen that in the past. And so I think it'll be interesting to see where he ends up leaning toward in terms of messages he sends out. Will he continue to use something like an X? Will he go more in a traditional platform and speak to media directly? So it'll be interesting also to see how he picks up steam, in this century in terms of how he's going to get his message out.
Right, and I know conservatives were really concerned about some of the immigration views he's expressed, particularly in calling out some of the Trump administration policies, or at least the rhetoric that they use about immigrants. I do think it's important to note that there have been some recordings of homilies that he's given where he has expressed the importance of border security and solving the problem while also showing dignity to all people. So I don't think he's quite as liberal on that issue, maybe as these retweets on his X account have led some to believe, which, as a conservative Catholic gives me some cautious optimism. We always have to see how popes actually work in the context of that position, because there have been popes who have come in with one particular leaning and by the end of their tenure have changed as well. It's important that he chose the name Leo as his pope name. His predecessor with that name, Pope Leo the 13th, was the author of one of the favorite prayers of modern Catholics, the St. Michael the Archangel prayer, which I'll just, for our viewers who know it, recite along, might as well, right? St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devils. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of heavenly hosts, cast into hell Satan and all the evildoers who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. It's one of the hardest prayers in Catholicism.
Well, look,
it's hardcore, and people love
impressed.
it. So
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
We say it at the end of every Mass, so it's one of my favorites personally, and I know people are like to read into the choice of name for Pope, so just wanted to call that out as well.
Well, it seems that, he's going to be looking at how people are treated. I think when it comes to the immigration issue in particular, it's, okay, maybe there's border security to your point, and maybe that will be something that he's saying, okay, there's a balance with it, but how are people being treated when they are sent to their home country? How are people given due process? I think those are some things where he may or may not be vocal about. What was interesting too was some folks having fun with, is he a White Sox fan and the pizza, like kind of Chicago pizza, being that he's from Chicago. So I thought that was also fun too, because he's American, right? So there were some traditions that I think some people did have some light humor with in all of this. You know, who's he rooting for and that kind of thing. And then interviewing his family, who said that that he was someone from the very beginning. They're playing with video games, and he was serious about his faith even as a young child. So and they used to joke that he might be the Pope, and here he is.
Yeah, so. Here we are. It's a crazy moment, and I saw some people referring to him as Dub Pope, referring to Dub Bears, which is good fun too. I love to see sort of the cultural crossover with Catholicism and how people, get into it in their own way. So it was a very exciting moment, and we'll of course keep following it, see what he does. But up next, Joe Biden joined the table at The View, and he's still convinced that he could have beaten Donald Trump. We'll get into that next on Rising.